When the question is asked, which one is better, iOS or Android, the whole world divides into two sections. The iOS lovers will say, iOS is the best, and Android lovers will say, Android rocks. But if you see the global smartphone market, Android is enjoying a 73% share of the global market in 2021, while Apple's iOS holds a 27%. Even with its global market share so low, the iPhone has managed to reign supreme in a few key countries. And when it comes to Japan, Apple's business is booming, as Apple was Japan's largest smartphone brand in 2020, with a 47.3% market share. That's only one smartphone company having almost half of the market share. Well, how exactly did Japan pull it off? That's what we are going to look at in this video. As per the report, the mobile market reached 11.432 million shipments in Q4 2020, and 52.6% of all smartphone sales in Japan were iPhones, substantially contributing to a 10.6% year-on-year growth for the country's mobile market as a whole. If you broaden the timeline, in 2020 as a whole, Apple sold the most smartphones in Japan, shipping 15.637 million units that earned it an 8.3% year-on-year growth. The numbers rose up thanks mostly to the company's release of its 5G-capable iPhone 12 series. As a matter of fact, Apple has a stronger base in Japan than in its home, the United States. But the reason Apple found that much acceptance and popularity in Japan is actually due to their competitor, Samsung, which can come as shocking news to many. All of the things started with the emojis. Yes, the emoticons are available on all the platforms now. The crossed flags emoji already has a history with Samsung. While most devices ship this emoji as two crossed Japanese flags, Samsung experimented with changing this to a pair of South Korean flags in 2015. Korean companies are often in direct competition with Japanese technology companies. Although it isn't clear why Samsung did that, apparently this Korean company made the insane decision to remove all Japanese culture references, starting from TouchWiz 6.0. TouchWiz 6.0 is the Android interface that they launched in 2010. Now, some big companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, etc. are able to create their own form of emojis. As you can see, they are a bit different from each other. But they had to follow the guidelines from an organization called the Unicode Consortium. This organization makes sure that the main theme of the emojis remains the same, no matter what platform they're on. But the TouchWiz 6.0, Samsung made things a bit weird, to be honest. In August 2016, the crossed flags was removed from all Samsung phones running the latest software update, and that remained the case until April 2017. In total, 6 emojis were removed from Samsung devices in all of 2016, and among them, there was the Japan flag and the map of Japan. This move from Samsung made this company pay a huge compensation. They faced a massive backlash and boycott from the Japanese consumers. It was on the news and everywhere, and because Japan is known as one of the most culture-loving countries in the world, they didn't take this decision from Samsung lightly. As a result, Samsung started to lose a huge market in Japan. Still, now, Samsung has to retake the position it had before this emoji incident, as they only had a 7% market share in Japan. Japan has yet to completely trust Samsung, and the Korean company knows that too. That's why Samsung took some initiative to increase their sales in Japan. They are now using the Galaxy name in Japan instead of Samsung. In all the marketing campaigns, there is no mention of Samsung anywhere. You can only see Galaxy. As a matter of fact, Samsung's huge retail location in Tokyo is called the Galaxy Store, and even their website domain is galaxymobile.jp for Japanese consumers. In this tension between two countries, the company that reaped quite a long-term benefit, and still reaping, is the company named Apple. A fun fact is that Apple had a tough time settling in Japan at first. The first iPhone to hit Japan was the 3G in 2008. At that point, Apple had answered two of the biggest criticisms of the original model, often made by mobile aficionados, the lack of 3G connectivity, and the inability to install third-party apps. But the iPhone 3G wasn't anywhere near meeting the list of various features that Japanese users had come to consider table stakes. And perhaps most critically, there wasn't even an emoji. First developed by NTT Docomo in the late 90s, other carriers like KDDI and SoftBank soon developed their own interchangeable character sets. Emoji, literally meaning picture characters, quickly became an essential feature of mobile communication and expression in Japan. Apple didn't have any support for emoji at all when it launched the iPhone 3G in July 2008, but later provided a character set for Japanese users with the iOS 2.2 update that November. How then did Apple get to its current position, where Japan is one of its strongest and most lucrative markets? Although there were teething pains associated with using an iPhone in Japan at first, the product's breakthroughs were no less revolutionary here. Apple's brand was already very strong, and the iPhone was always going to find at least some audience among Japan's affluent, tech-savvy consumers. But it wouldn't have reached critical mass without some extremely aggressive moves from its initial carrier partner, SoftBank. SoftBank secured exclusive rights to the iPhone in Japan, much as AT&T did in the US. Japanese carriers, however, were traditionally far more involved in the development of phones, and Japan's two biggest, KDDI and the dominant NTT Docomo, refused to sell the iPhone for years. This gave SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, a longtime friend and admirer of Steve Jobs, an opening to differentiate his also ran network. Not only that, but Steve Jobs also admired Japan, actually. Jobs respected the Japanese company Sony, and he also tried persuading them to allow their popular VAIO notebook to run the Mac. That came as quite a shocker, as Jobs had spent the last 3 years shut down. But Sony declined that offer, as VAIO was optimized with the Windows configuration. So SoftBank deployed audacious pricing and smart marketing campaigns to position the iPhone as an exotic, advanced, and attainable device. The SoftBank CEO's relationship with Jobs also helped Apple tailor the iPhone for Japan. SoftBank's tactics shook up the Japanese mobile industry. Once it was clear that Japan would indeed move from flip phones to smartphones, Apple found itself with little competition, with only Samsung on the horizon. Masayoshi Son was the one who persuaded Apple to use emojis, as he knew how important emojis are in the Japanese market, and Apple decided to make the change. And after the emoji scandal of Samsung, Apple had a really clear road ahead of them conquering the Japanese market completely. Now, it is simply a fact that the iPhone remains the best-selling smartphone in Japan, and it's hard to see that changing anytime soon. Apple came from nowhere to dominate an insular market, eventually integrated with it, and brought some of its best elements to everywhere else. That's all for now. I hope you've learned all about how Apple managed to dominate the competition in Japan. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and turn on notifications so you're up to date on the channel's updates. See you in the next video.